This is the sad story of how a staff of the Nigerian Correctional Centre and Deputy Superintendent Mr. Pelumi Adebayo killed his neighbor, Ayo Aiyepekun, a young photojournalist in Lokoja, Kogi State, Nigeria, then committed suicide thereafter. Hello, welcome to another episode of Crime Scene Insightz, where we talk through crime stories as it unfolds. If you are new to this channel, please like and share this video, subscribe to this channel, turn on the bell notification button so that you will get updates when I drop the next story. It was a regular day at Ayo Aiyepekun's modest photo studio in Lokoja. He was busy working on a photo editing job for a client who had come in for a session. The mood was calm. The conversation was professional. Nothing suggested what was about to happen. Suddenly, Mr. Pelumi Adebayo, a deputy superintendent at the Nigerian Correctional Centre and a known face in the neighborhood, walked into the studio. He asked Ayo for a favor. According to witness and a local report, Adebayo requested Ayo's help with a task at his nearby poultry farm. The nature of this task was never disclosed, but it appeared to be something familiar. From how the story was told, it seemed like this wasn't the first time Ayo had been called upon for a similar errand. Ayo didn't hesitate. He responded politely, telling Mr. Adebayo to give him few more minutes so that he could wrap up the work he was doing for his client. Once the edits were done, Ayo had planned to lock up his photo studio and head over to the farm. Mr. Adebayo nodded his head and left the studio, presumably returning to his farm to go and wait for Ayo. After a short while, Ayo noticed that the photo editing job was taking longer than he expected. Determined not to keep Mr. Pelumi Adebayo waiting, he turned to his client and made a quick request. He asked if he could step away briefly to attend to something important and promised to return shortly. The client, unaware of what fate awaited Ayo, agreed without hesitation. With that, Ayo stood up, shut his computer, and stepped out of his studio for the last time. He walked towards Adebayo's poultry farm, just a few minutes away, a walk he had probably made before. But this time around, he was walking into a death trap, one carefully set for him by a man he likely trusted. The exact events that followed are still unclear and perhaps will never be fully known. But one thing is certain, Ayo never made it back. Sometime after entering the farm, Mr. Pelumi Adebayo murdered Ayo Aiyepekun in cold blood. In a shocking twist, Mr. Pelumi Adebayo then reportedly hid Ayo's lifeless body inside the refrigerator, loaded it into a van, and drove away from the scene, leaving behind only traces of a horrific act. To this day, the motive behind the killing remains a mystery. There was no known argument, no prior dispute, no bad blood. On the surface, they were friendly neighbors. So why did Pelumi Adebayo kill Ayo Aiyepekun? Back to the photo studio. Ayo's client waited patiently, but minutes turned into an hour, and the sun lower in the sky, worry began to creep in. Ayo was usually prompt, especially with clients. Eventually, concerned for his safety and perhaps following a growing gut feeling, the client decided to follow Ayo's trail to the nearby poultry farm. As he approached, something felt off. The area was quiet, the air felt heavy. No one was in sight, but what he saw next confirmed the worst. Scattered near the entrance of the farm were pieces of torn clothing, visibly stained with blood. Nearby, he recognized a pair of shoes, Ayo's shoe. There were streaks of blood, signs of struggle, and what appeared to be human remains partially hidden. The reality was horrifying. The man who had just left moments ago to help a neighbor was now feared dead. The client, shaken and overwhelmed by the gruesome scene before him, raised the alarm. His discovery has confirmed the worst. Something terrible had happened. In a matter of minutes, local residents and members of the neighborhood vigilante group arrived at the scene. The blood, the scattered clothing, and the silence around the poultry farm all pointed to a chilling crime. It didn't take long for the community to realize that Ayo Aiyepekun might have met a brutal end. As people gathered, questions started flying. Where was Pelumi Adebayo? What happened inside that farm? And most of all, why would anyone want to kill Ayo? According to eyewitness accounts and reports from the local vigilante, Pelumi Adebayo returned to the crime scene hours later, possibly in an attempt to clean up the mess or retrieve something he had left behind. But the neighborhood was already on a high alert. He was immediately recognized. Upon spotting familiar faces and realizing he had been seen, Adebayo panicked. He jumped into his van and sped off. The local vigilantes gave him a chase. In a dramatic turn, they fired at the tires of the car to stop him. The vehicle eventually crashed, but Adebayo managed to escape on foot, vanishing into the darkness. For hours, he was nowhere to be found, but the community knew one thing: he was running and he was desperate. As the search intensified, an unexpected lead emerged. A few hours later, Adebayo was discovered, but not in a prison cell and not hiding in the forest. Instead, his lifeless body was found inside a room at a modest hotel in Lokoja. It was later revealed that after fleeing the scene, Adebayo had checked into a hotel under a false name, Pelumi Jacobs, but in a critical oversight, he submitted his Nigeria Correctional Service ID card during check-in, which still bore his actual name, Ayo and Pelumi Adebayo. The detail will later help investigators link him conclusively to both the murder and his own death. Hotel staff reported that Adebayo barely left his room. He remained inside most of the time, perhaps wrestling with his conscience or plotting his final act. Later that night, he stepped out briefly only to return moments later. He didn't speak to anyone. He didn't seem nervous, just quiet, detached. By the next morning, hotel workers began to grow suspicious. It was unusual for a guest not to emerge at all. After knocking repeatedly without any response, they notified the police. When the law enforcement arrived and forced the door open, the scene inside was grim. Adebayo was dead. On a nearby table were a bottle of Coca-Cola and a container of Sniper, a powerful insecticide commonly used in suicide cases in Nigeria. All signs at the scene pointed to a self-inflicted poisoning. Next to his body was a handwritten suicide note. While the full content of the letter has not been made public, those who read it claimed it was cryptic and difficult to interpret. However, one part stood out: the final paragraph, where Adebayo pleaded for details of his death to be hidden from his children. It was a heartbreaking request from a man who just hours earlier had destroyed the life of another man and deeply scared his community. The authorities recovered Adebayo's body and transported it to the Federal University Teaching Hospital in Lokoja, where an autopsy was scheduled to confirm the exact cause of his death. Meanwhile, Ayo Aiyepekun's loved ones were left to grapple with an unimaginable loss. A promising photojournalist, a friend, a son, his life was stolen without warning. And the person who killed him committed suicide even before any answers could be given. To this day, the motive remains unclear. Was it jealousy, a hidden conflict, a mental crisis, or something darker? We may never know. This case is a haunting reminder that sometimes the danger doesn't come from strangers. It comes from those closest to us. Pelumi Adebayo, a man tasked with upholding the law and order, became a killer. Ayo Aiyepekun, a young man full of dreams, was robbed of his future. And an entire community now lives with the echoes of a tragedy that still feels unreal. We share this story not to sensationalize, but to remember, to reflect, and to ask the hard questions society often ignores. May Ayo's soul rest in peace, and may his loved ones have the strength to bear this unfortunate loss. I am King, your regular host. Until next episode, bye for now.
Ayo has been effective in this assignment he is doing. He has never one day offended anybody. He has never any time he say something is fishy or something is missing.